everyone, welcome back to PommyInOz. Hope we're all doing absolutely splendid this Wednesday, Alva. Welcome back to the channel. If you are new around here, please drop a like though first of all. Subscribe, it does really help the channel out. We're absolutely smashing them out. It does mean absolutely everything to me. I can't thank you enough. I'm shocked at the amount. You can go a step further, become a member of the channel. It allows us to do wonderful things like sponsor Big Domaku. We've got the sponsorship here. That means the world to us. It means we have a bit of a connection to the club. We're a bit of a community here. So if you want to do that, link is in the description. You will need to click that link if you are on iOS because Apple's corrupt. What can I say? And if you are a returning PommyInOzer, good day to you. And get yourself on Pommy Sports Almanac. We've got a few prints. That one behind me there, Captain Cripps, looking really good, selling really well. So without any further ado, let's talk about the game. We've got a game against Hawthorn. And firstly, I'm a little bit shocked everyone is panicking about this game. I don't know why it is. I don't, like, for me personally, just a bit of a background on me. I've never been that type of person that looks at because something has happened before, I expect the same output. I see myself as a progressively thinking person. So for me, if something has happened before, my brain is saying that you've got to change something to repeat it. And when I've seen the plethora of change I've seen at the Carlton Football Club at the moment, which in 3 weeks of football is more than I've seen in a decade since I've been here, I'm thinking it's fairly obvious. So, I mean, let's see if I can try and convince you guys and girls not to panic about this game, because the last 2 games, structurally and tactically, have been worlds apart to this one. But it does pose its own idiosyncrasy, this game. So, firstly, let's talk about Hawthorn. What is really impressive about Sam Mitchell, and you know when Carlton were looking at coaches, Sam Mitchell and Voss were 2 of the names that I was really hot on, that I really enjoyed. Now, Sam Mitchell impresses me. He's a modern day coach, and if you look at all the ball sports in the world at the moment, the top teams are playing a counter press. That's what they're playing. They're basically letting you do the damage to yourself via attacking. It's the modern day way. 2 reasons. One, it's super economical on your fitness levels. Super economical. And number 2, when teams attack and get hurt, it's the quickest way to cause structural chaos in any ball sport. If what your strength is your weakness all of a sudden, it causes an absolute dynamo effect everywhere else. Now, one thing that I really want to take note of before we get into the real idiosyncrasies of the stats is the Port game. Everyone is losing their mind about this game. Now, one of the key takeouts is if you actually look at how Hawks won that game and you look at the data, the key indicators of who wins a game in the data are saying Port wins it. But there is the king, and something that Pom in this channel talks a fuckload about, is your ability to transition the football. 55 points came from defensive transition for Hawthorn, right? That was the 10 intercept marks that they had in defensive 50, which was what is their best club return. 49 rebounds from Port, 58 inside 50s. They were really clever about doing this. They were absolutely phenomenal when they did this, and they really did set up well. And what I am super impressed about with their ability, with what they're trying to build, without a doubt, is how they isolate Sam Frost and Sicily. That is an incredible thing. Now, what Carlton have got to do, and what you've got to remember when you look at Carlton, is Carlton are the number 1 disposal side in the AFL at the moment. They are absolutely killing it in that avenue. Why? What is it? What Voss likes to do is Carlton have shortened their average disposals by, it's roughly around 8 metres per disposal, which is an absolute huge total. What Carlton are really trying to do there is keep the ball, retain the ball, not just pressure it. An average of just under 400 disposals per game. Now, this does spell disaster against Hawthorn. However, it does also say to you that Carlton are a little bit different to the last two sides. Now, what Port did is they had a huge dominance in the centre. 44 points of Hawthorn's came direct from centre clearance that was just bombed, and it went straight back into it. Now, the wonderful thing for Carlton is they're third in disposal efficiency. What they're really demonstrating at the moment to you is their ability to be confident in retaining possession first. It's interesting that Power and Kangaroos are bottom 7, both of them, for disposal efficiency. And that is where, if you look at the modern day ethos, retaining possession against counter-pressing teams kills them, because they have to go to a book B of their tactics. Now let's look at some more in-depth tactics. Here you are, the battle of the new wave, Mitchell versus Voss, Pom's first two favourite coaches. I'm a big fan of both of these guys. Carlton are second in clearance differential. It's also our primary scoring outlet, and Hawks are bottom. Now, this is interesting. Hawks are killing it in hit-outs, but their ability to read is very obvious. Now, there's two reasons for this. One, Hawthorn aren't really bothered about this stat at the moment because they're setting up to really counter-press. They want you to bomb it in. So if you look at their structure around the ball, around stoppages, they're encouraging that short and that long ball. That's what they want. Now, what Carlton are really clever at the moment is their ability to offload in tackles. They're top 2 in that stat. And that is king. It's how we beat the doggies. We beat the doggies at their own game. Now, if you're thinking in this game, Carlton's suddenly going to scrap that philosophy when there's been clear indicators in both games at the moment, against Richmond and against doggies, that Voss tinkers with the tactics to accommodate what the opposition are doing. Well, you're probably lost to the process, to be honest. But what that tells me is the way Carlton naturally have moved their ball in their 4 games, let's say the 2 preceding this, they ain't going to resort to that. And when they have resorted to it, they've done a very interesting tactic. They've actually moved Harry to about the half-forward flank. He's almost playing a very forward winger. That is how Carlton cope with the pressure. Now, we're going to talk about pressure a bit more in depth a bit later on in this slide, but what that does is it encourages ball movement. So if you remember David Teague, he used to move Harry in a very similar way, but it would almost be the half-back flank. So it was encouraging the long kick. What Voss and Hansen last week did was had him at the second or third kick, which encourages good transition first before you look for that exit ball. And that is why Carlton focus on the corridor. It's the shortest ends of the ground. It's the quickest way to it. So that there is our outlet ball and our safety passage. That takes away a key component with what Hawthorn do. The majority of their transition and their intercepts are in the corridor, essentially. So in the D50. So what Carlton are doing is they're creating an angle. And when you create angles, it makes it a lot harder to defence against. If you watch Port, they just bombed it through the corridor inside 50. And it became a real easy thing because Sam Frost, Blake Hardwick and James Sicily were all in that hot zone. When you go down to the wing and you create another angle, it's taking one of them out. It's narrowing your options. So that is something to look out for in this game. Hawks are 16th in inside 50s, but they have an abnormal amount of 54% of scores coming from it. They have been really efficient. Last week was a real efficient game for them, and they are as rare as rocking horse poo. Carlton have 47%, which is really high. It's in the good AFL range. It's where you're looking for. So from that avenue, Carlton's inside 50 tackles have been really impressive this year. And that is something that was absolutely abhorrent for Power last week. Carlton are third inside 50 tackles. And last week, you really did see it was really poor from them. Really poor from Port. They allowed these rebounds. Carlton have really improved that avenue of game. So that is another avenue for Carlton to look and think, we don't give them up very easy. You've got to remember as well, Port's only had 2 in the entire game of transitions. And that was because Libbojrjr wasn't there. Hawks have kind of been lucky that they haven't played sides that have had their intercepts playing and haven't had high intercept numbers. Carlton have. And that is a real key component for this. And a key component of the Bub Sap is Sam Mitchell's philosophy of playing uncontested parts of the ground. This comes unstuck though in passages this year when the pressure rating has reached above that AFL average. When North Melbourne had real high pressure, they were getting battered. There was a few swings in the Hawthorn game where they got a few ascendancies, Port. Again, the pressure rating went above. Carlton's been in the elite category all the time in their last 2 games. And there's no reason that to change, because that stat is a very interesting stat. When teams are high in their pressure stats, that maintains throughout games, throughout seasons. That is a philosophy. It's not something you can switch on. That is something that's inherent in the DNA of the side. So the way Carlton play at the moment is a very contested brand. It's a very physical brand. And that, especially with the younger bodies at Hawthorn, will do it. Now, this stat, I think, is a really, really important one. This is the battle of the midfield intercepts. It's been a massive strength. Port displayed a clear dominance in the midfield. However, they were forced to kick long and they looked to do it. A product of their underdone pre-season partly is also a huge product of how Mitchell sets up his team in defence. Scores versus Hawks are high when the ball is moved short. Currently, Carlton are a shorter ball movement side, hence our high number of disposals. It's a real interesting facet that no one is talking about. Carlton have really stripped that back. And it's interesting, Carlton are second in handballs. And it's very interesting that Magpies are the top side. The usual messes are there. We talked about use the handball more to get you out of trouble. Carlton have really fluxed here. Really fluxed. And it's it's an avenue that I want you guys and girls to really think about. Because Carlton were bottom 2 for handballs last year. They're now at the top of the tree. And there's a reason. The handball is a real important part of today's game. To break pressure, number 1. 2, to maintain good structure, because you are always in place. And that is why Carlton, when they do screw up, they are in position. Because genuinely they're looking to move the ball shorter and more assured. All in all, now I'm not saying that this game's a walkover. I've heard lots of people talking about complacency and stuff. And I'm like, it's an absolute ridiculous argument. You can't talk about something that doesn't exist at the football club. And that is what really frustrates me when I see complacency. Fans can be complacent. We have no influence on the game day. What the club has talked specifically about is there's lots of work to do. Vossi just did an interview the other day talking about there's a lot of work to do. There is no way they're complacent. They know that there's work to do. They will be approaching this game as if it is a top of the table clash. Facts are though, from a structural point of view, Carlton won't be worried. In that dressing room, they won't be worried. Because the only way Hawthorn can win this game is, with their structure, is products of Carlton's inaccuracy and Carlton changing their game plan and not sticking to it and panicking. 2 huge takeouts are the pressure isn't there from Hawthorn, and 2, Carlton move the ball on their terms, as shown in the last 2 games. And the big one is the Doggies. The Doggies are one of the toughest teams to play your style against. They did the Melbourne way. Put the pressure on, force the ball. Carlton have channeled the ball very well defensively into their areas of strength. And I personally am not going into this game worried. It is a danger game because all games are. You have to look at all 17 teams will play, want to win. They're not going to come and hand it over. Domination, though, is caused by in-game structure. And at the moment, both sides, Carlton are head and shoulders structurally, ball movement-wise, in a position to say we go into this game as favourites. And the only person really that can beat Carlton, as Hawthorn's 2 victories have shown, is inadequacy. Is inadequacy in their structure. North Melbourne and Port were poor, were really poor, and played into the game plan. And this is going to come down to 3 key facets. Trust in the system, it's a great test of that. 2, leaders, being able to dictate play. And 3, how the midfield operates. And Chera is coming back into this team. And also Martin presumably gives you that extra little bit of height. And I'm very excited about our defensive structure with Lewis Young coming in. He was phenomenal in the VFL. So what I want to say is really just calm it down, man. Like, you don't have to hit the panic alarm. You've got to remember, when you hit the panic alarm, it's the biggest show of weakness and cowardice you can do. strong leaders, strong clubs, strong people don't hit the panic alarm every 5 seconds because they control what they control and they react to what they can't. Don't panic. And I'm not panicked, and I guarantee Voss and the 22 men that go out there won't be panicked. Positive energies. This game really is a danger game in one avenue. Carlton lose their structure, Carlton lose it, and based on what we know on how Hawthorn are playing, that ain't coming from them. That's coming from intercepts taking a toll. Carlton have got to make sure that they're doing what they're doing, which Curnow and Harry did exceptionally well last week as well against a very dangerous intercepting outfit. I'm really confident in this game. My gut says Carlton by 4 goals minimum. And you bank the win. You bank the win. If Carlton, though, I would tell you this, get a roll on early, they're a young side. They're very 2017 Carlton, Hawthorn. They're playing on emotion and winging a player. Sam Mitchell is a genius at what he does, but counter-pressing takes a while to implement against good sides. And we've got to put Carlton, tactically, in a good side. If you haven't got on board now, please don't get on board later. It's either get on board now at the start of the journey or not. Otherwise, you're like the Yanks during the war, and it doesn't count. If you're not in the fight at the start, it doesn't count if you win the fight at the end. I'm really excited about this one. I can't wait for you all to join me, and I really, really do believe we're 3-0. But there is work to do, and it is all down to us. This is an ownership game for the boys. So really enjoy it. Get down there. If you can't get down there, I, like all year this year, will be on the watch along. You can come and join me. Come and join your Uncle Pom on Blue Abroad. I'll hold your hand. We'll have a good laugh. We'll cheer them home. And win, lose or draw, we'll cheer hard. Till next time, can't wait to see you all. Pommy out.